Welcome to the Preserving Family Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to equip you to gain insight, information, and inspiration to help you protect, teach, and guide your family during these turbulent times. Our goal is to provide tools and resources to help you strengthen and preserve your own marriages and families. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Mark and Janie Ogletree.
Well, as usual, we are excited to be here today, and I'm especially excited because I am going to interview Janie this time, and I get to, Janie, the pressure's off on me, and it's all on you.
Oh, boy.
No, you've got this. So we're just coming off of a cousins camp / family reunion, and we have some daughters that post some things on social media, and so we've had a few people ask about those experiences, and we thought we would talk about why we feel these type of connections with extended family, particularly why grandparent relationships with their grandchildren, but then grandchildren's relationships with each other. I always call it cousin power. When we see those cousins hanging out together and having fun together, it's cousin power to me, and I think it's really important stuff. We've often quoted President Spencer W. Kimball. It's the basis for our podcast, that the time would come when only those who believe deeply and actively in the family would be able to preserve their families in the midst of the gathering evil around us. And so that is not only applicable to the nuclear family, but also the extended family.
Absolutely. I think that is so important these days, and you're going to read this quote right now that talks about it from Elder Elton Perry, but it's so important that we have as many family members supporting and loving and encouraging each other that we can, because these are crazy times, and we need all of us.
Yeah, I kind of think of this great team feel, that we're a team, and that we work together, and we're kind of trying to do battle against not just Satan, but against the ideas and philosophies of the world. And often the extended family can be a great safe haven where the teachings of parents are reinforced by grandparents, aunts and uncles and others, but also great fun and great connection and great relationships.
Again, part of that team feeling where we want our children to be part of, I'm part of this family. Look at all these people who love me. Look at, aunts and uncles who reach out to me, grandparents who love me. It's not just mom and dad, or it's not just, I think it's just a whole focus on we are part of this family. We all work together, and what a great support system that could be in a unified, healthy family.
Well, I know, Janie, we were talking earlier, and you said that one of the things that you really love to see is when one of our grandchildren is connecting with an aunt or an uncle, and they're having these conversations, and they're laughing, and that's important.
Or just the uncles out there throwing them the football and just, asking them about their day or their team or whatever, or the aunts snuggling them on the couch, talking with the little nieces about their best friends or friend drama, or combing their hair or curling their hair. It's just a bonding time. There's so many people that love them.
Right.
And they can feel that.
And they feel that they're part of this great, great team. So here's Elder Perry. We've held you off long enough. To build a foundation strong enough to support a family in our troubled world today requires the best effort of each of us: father, mother, brother, sister, grandmother, grandfather, aunts, uncles, cousins, and so on. Each must contribute energy and effort in driving piles right down into the bedrock of the gospel until the foundation is strong enough to endure through the eternities. The Lord has promised in the Doctrine and Covenants that he that buildeth upon this rock shall never fall. That's Doctrine and Covenants 50:24. And then he added this: to build traditions in your families that will bring you together, he said. For they can demonstrate your devotion, love, and support for each other. And I think, Janie, that's kind of what you were talking about a minute ago. For each of the members of your family, these events would include blessings of children, baptisms, and other priesthood ordinances, graduations, missionary farewells, homecomings, and of course marriages. If distance, missions, or ill health prevent personal reunions, write one of those special letters that will be treasured in family history. Share these occasions, as a family will help us build a foundation established upon a rock. Janie, as I was reading that, I thought of one of our granddaughters who was just baptized, and she doesn't live anywhere near here, but two of our granddaughters, in fact, recently have been baptized, and they wanted to be baptized here because on both occasions their families were here and all together, and they felt this need to be baptized in front of their cousins or around their cousins versus friends maybe that they don't know so well in their home ward or stake.
Which really means a lot. That was so special that they would choose to do that, with both sides of the family being here in Utah, that they came all the way. One came from Arkansas, one came from Montana.
Yeah.
And they both chose to be here because of the huge family support that is here. And it also reminds me, we kicked off our cousins camp and family reunion last week. We kicked it off with the blessing of our two newest grandbaby daughters. We had a double blessing with both of their families, which was super special. Had the family reunion during the week, and then ended on Saturday morning with the baptism of our newest 8-year-old granddaughter. And as we participate in these ordinances, along with all the fun and that goes on, and I mean, it was just such a special week, to have these different ordinances kind of bookend our time together.
Right.
And then to have all the family there cheering and the love and the support. And Mark, as you called her up there and had her stand on a chair and look out at everyone, you said, look at all the, who's here? And she said, my family. And you said, taught her the principle that all these people are here because they love you and they support you in your whole life. You're going to cheer them on. You're going to help them, now that you're a new baptized member, and that you gave her the charge that she has to help us also in this life.
We're going to cheer her on. She's going to cheer us on, right?
And that we are there for each other. And I just thought that was such a special moment.
I did too. Well, and even those baby blessings, both babies were from different parts of the country too. So it was great that the parents said, hey, we want to do this together.
Yeah, that was special. But Mark has a second witness of the quote you just read. This one is from Elder Ballard. And he said, in today's world where Satan's aggression against the family is so prevalent, parents must do all they can to fortify and defend their families. But their efforts may not be enough. Our most basic institution of family desperately needs help and support from the extended family and the public institutions that surround us. Brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, grandparents, cousins can make a powerful difference in the lives of our children. Remember that the expression of love and encouragement from an extended family member will often provide the right influence and help a child at a critical time. And I totally 100% would say amen on that.
Yeah.
I mean, as we raised our children, I was so grateful for the influence of powerful aunts and uncles and grandparents in their lives, that made a difference, that inspired them, that taught them, that loved them, that played with them, that interacted and encouraged their whole life and still do to this day.
Right.
And it just really makes a big difference.
I do too. I think it does, and I'm grateful for those memories as well. Now, according to the Pew Research Center, 3 out of 4 adults in our country place some importance on living near their extended family, and more than half of American adults live that reality. So that's pretty cool. In fact, of those surveyed, 55% said they live within an hour of some or most of their families, while the rest said they live near only a few or none. Now, this is interesting. Education and income can play a part in the distance between family members. The Pew Research Center found that over 3 in 5 adults with a high school education or less live near extended family. So that's 3 in 5. Only 2 in 5 with a postgraduate degree do. In other words, the higher a person's income, the more likely they are to live further away from family.
Yeah, and we see that in this global world, right? In the global economy that, sometimes you just have to go where the job is and, which takes you away.
Right.
And several of our kids now, they've come and now they're away. We're hoping, praying that one day they come back. But we know you just have to sometimes go where the job is.
And for us, we've lived the first 20 years of our marriage away from family.
Right.
Because of the job, right? So.
But how grateful we are, though, that in modern technology, we have airplanes. You can get places in 3 to 5 to 10 hours, right, depending on where you live. You can, we have Zoom, we have FaceTime. I mean, there's
all kinds of technology.
Phones. There's so many opportunities that we can stay
together.
close
Yeah.
and that we can stay bonded. So that we are super grateful for that.
So Janie, here we go. Here's my first attempt at having my own talk show. You ready? But But how did you get inspired to start this whole process of, what we would call cousins camp / family reunion? How did all this begin for you?
For me, it's something that I love to do. I love to do creative things. I love to plan events. I love to gather people. I love to do all that. So for me, it probably just comes naturally. But where I first got inspired is years ago. We didn't even have grandchildren. We probably didn't even have any kids married yet. Right. And I was at Education Week one year, and I sat in a class, and I think her name was Elaine Flake, and she did a whole class on family reunions. And I went to her class, and I was just so inspired. The very last day, she talked about how they would do this cousins camp. And everyone has a different name. You can call it cousins camp. You can call it, I've heard especially for grands. I've heard, everybody has... Grandma camp. Yep. Grandpa camp. Everybody has really cute different names for it. Mm-hmm. But they think they called it EFG, or especially for grands, which I thought was so cute. Anyway, and she just talked about how they do one just for their grandkids and the things that they did, and they ran it just like EFY. They had different family members come in and speak on different things. They taught them skills. They bore their testimony. They had testimony meetings. They had recently returned missionaries in the family speak or share their mission experiences. But it just sounded like such a powerful bonding time for their family. Right. And I just knew in my heart. I was just so overwhelmed. I think the Spirit just told me, you're going to do this. And I've never forgotten it. From that moment, I'm like, we're doing this. As soon as our grandkids are old enough, I'm doing this.
Yeah, we had to get grandkids first.
Well, we had to get kids married first. That's how long ago this was. But in the meantime, several people that we love and admire that are, a step above us, that a few years ahead, they've been doing it. And so I have watched what they do, and I've asked questions, and I ask people everywhere we go, who mention, oh yeah, we're doing a family reunion, or we're having cousins camp. I pick their brain. Right. Okay, what do you do? What are your best ideas? And everybody does it different. And so there is no right or wrong. There is no one cookie cutter mold. I can tell you a little bit about what we've chosen to do in our family, but other people have great ideas too. And a lot of ideas I've gotten from them. Yeah. And every family looks different. And every family is different because you've got different ages and likes and interests. And so
some people we've met, all their grandchildren live, 5 blocks away. And then others
have to come in from all over the country. Yeah. And so it's just going to look and feel different for every family. And so as we're talking today and sharing some ideas, use this as inspiration. Don't use it as this is the recipe that you have to do. Or the template. This is just ideas. It's encouragement to just do something, with your extended family. And it can be small and simple. It can be large and grandiose, depending on just what you personally like, what your family is interested in, what meets the needs. But I think our encouragement is just, summer's a great time to gather your family, to get your extended family. And even if you can't get everyone, get some. Go visit one family or something.
Just do something is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, do something as with your extended family.
I think that's great. Okay, so what role would you say that grandparents play in connecting the cousins, their grandchildren together? How does that work?
I would say, when you first said that, I thought of a sign that we have on our wall that says, Grandma and Grandpa's house is a place where cousins come to learn to become best friends, or something like that. It's super cute.
I love how we have all these signs and we never know exactly what they say because they just become part of the wall. But yes.
No, but I have it with, where all my grandkids' pictures are. And I think about that often because it's true. When our grandchildren are here, they don't care about us. They care about their cousins, right? They are running with them, and they just run in packs, and they're playing and having a ball. And I love that. I hope they are becoming best friends. But I think our role as grandparents of the family, if we're the matriarch and patriarch of the family, that's our job, is to gather or make sure that is happening, that we're providing opportunities for for them to get together. And it doesn't have to, sometimes it's not even formal. Sometimes it's Sunday dinner. Sometimes it's a casual, oh, let's get together with this family or this family. Sometimes it's not like a grandiose, let's all get together. But I think it is important that we're constantly, like Elder Perry said, making big things big. So if we're having baby blessings or baptisms or graduations, or, we're trying to pull the family together to cheer on that family member or to bond them together.
Yeah.
But again, the word intentional that we like to use a lot, I think it has to be intentional, especially in this day and age, whether it's by Zoom. I mean, some families maybe are all over the world and we're meeting together on Zoom once a month, or maybe it's a family newsletter. It's going to look different in every family, but whatever it is, I think we, as whoever the matriarch and patriarch of the family, it needs to be intentional and it needs to be constant and consistent.
Yeah, and driven at that, from that level of grandparents, hopefully, and Janie, as you and I have talked about this idea for a while, we recognize that every family's different, as you've said. And so maybe in some families it wouldn't be driven by the grandparents for different reasons. And so
maybe there's not grandparents in the picture,
Yeah.
Maybe they've passed on. And that doesn't mean the grandparents have to do it all. Maybe we could take turns with different members of the family taking charge of different events or different reunions. But I just think the encouragement and the
instigating of the whole event, the orchestration of it, is got to start with
from the top.
From the top, yeah. The grandparents have a great role to play, and I completely agree with that. Okay, so do you want to talk about Cousins Camp for a minute? Because, and maybe we can broaden it to Cousins Camp / family reunion, however you want to kind of phrase that. But I think it'd be great for people to hear. I don't want to say what we do, because Janie, you're the mastermind. I mean, you make it happen. My job is just to be the court jester and make people laugh and cause trouble every so often accidentally. But anyway, yeah, tell us about the most recent Cousins Camp.
Well, this cousin camp actually was kind of thrown together at the last minute because we didn't think that we were going to be able to get together this summer. We had a wedding earlier a few months ago, and we just didn't want to ask everyone
to come out one more time.
Right.
Yeah.
And we still have kids that are just starting their careers and still in school and things like that. And just financially, we didn't want to ask them again. But somehow it ended up that everybody was going to be here for a couple days at the same time, like tender mercy, miraculous. So we threw together Cousins Camp.
I wouldn't say threw together. You worked on this a lot. That was a lot of work, I know.
Well, usually about a year in advance, right? So we had about a month to work on it, which it ended up being great. But it was short and sweet. We've had others that are longer. This one is a little short one. But Cousins Camp for me is just something that I love to do. I'm passionate about it. I've done girls camp for many, many years. I love to be creative. Again, like I said, I love to plan events and do all that kind of thing. Organizer. And so for me, it's fun. I love all the silly games, and I'm big on themes, and I'm big on decorations and all that. And again, not everyone is, and that's great. I have friends who they go on hikes, and they take their kids to Disneyland, or they travel, or, they do things like that. And that is awesome too. I have friends who or people that I've asked and studied, they have all their kids come to their house for a week. Well, I shouldn't say all. A lot of people do just like 8 and above, or even 12 and above. Mm-hmm. And every family looks different. And I love to sit and interview people about it because, it makes me think, and not that we have it right for our family too, because I think there's always adjusting that's going to be going on because of how many grandchildren we have. By the end of the year, we'll have 27 grandchildren. And so... with
a median age of like 5.
Yeah. And so we kind of are rethinking. Maybe we should, extend the invitation to maybe 8 and above or 12 and above and kind of do a different version and then something little for the little guys.
Maybe I'll run the one for the little guys and you can have the big guys, right?
Or not even, or just have the little guys get excited that when they turn 8 or 12 or whatever the magic number we decide, that then they get to come, and kind of make a big deal of it that way. But we're fluid too. We're trying to figure it all out. But I love how, and these are all just ideas that I've gotten from other people. Some people have themes for the week. Some people, they all usually come to their grandma and grandpa's house, and they do all kinds of fun activities. I have a friend who teaches them a life skill every day. So they'll come home at the end of the week knowing how to make bread. They'll come home knowing how to change a tire. They'll come home
knowing how to fold a flag is what we heard from our good friends in Texas,
yeah.
right? And to say the Pledge of Allegiance standing up or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Patriotism.
how to lead music. I mean, there's so many great skills.
How to saw a piece of wood, you know?
Right, so many great skills that from grandparents that we can teach the next rising generation. And so we try to mix a bunch of those. This past one wasn't so much that because we had so little time. But this one was kind of more just fun. We kind of did an Olympic theme because we're going into the Olympics in a few weeks. And so ours was a lot of fun and games. We had opening ceremonies, which was their talent show.
Which they all love,
our kids love to do talent show. And so we made that the opening ceremonies. They were the entertainment, which was darling and wonderful. And then we just did lots of fun games. We worked them hard and ran them hard all day long. We went to a bounce house. We rented a big slip and slide. They were exhausted.
We had activities on a field. You had set it up so that because our children have served missions like many have all over the world, the meals were kind of from different countries to represent back to the Olympics.
Right.
Tried to have some inspirational Olympian stories that we had dug up and
try to tie them to gospel principles.
Right.
And so that was fun, and that was the extent of it because we just had a little tiny window this time. But for me, having a theme makes it easier because if you have a theme, you can build off that.
Everything kind of points to that, right?
Exactly.
Funnels into that theme.
Exactly. So that's just what we did this time. But I love that we're teaching, no matter what we're teaching, that we're having fun, for sure, that there's camaraderie, that there's downtime for the cousins just to play. I have a friend who she and her husband love science, and they teach their kids science experiments. I mean, you can literally do anything, whatever your family is into. I know another family, they're all musical. They get together and they create music, and they play music, and they make, music videos. And so I think whatever your family is into, go for it. It's going to be awesome. If your family likes to travel and you can afford it, take your kids and travel, whatever that looks like. Some families are into Disney and they do that every year. Some families love the beach and they do that every year. And that is awesome. And I love how different and unique and personal every family is, because that's what makes it special to you and to us.
Janie, I love the word you keep bringing up, and we use it a lot. You mentioned it, intentional and intentionality. I still remember talking to a really good friend of mine, and he was telling me how the car that he drove was not the ideal car that he thought he would be driving in his retirement years. But he looked at me and said, but that's on purpose. And we would say that's intentional. But he said it's deliberate, and here's why. And then he told me this great trip where he and his wife, Grandma and Grandpa, were taking all their children on a church history trip, and they were going to start in New York and work through Ohio and then Illinois and Missouri. But he said, we purposely don't have the car we thought we were going to have because we've made a deliberate decision that we are going to focus on our grandkids, and we're going to help them get the gospel deep in their hearts.
I love that. See, that's another reason, another witness of the extended family blessing the lives, of our grandchildren.
And once again, Janie, like the dynamics are going to be so different because there are families today that have 2 or 3 grandkids, and there's others that have 30 or 40. So how have you kind of figured out how to manage that when you have a lot of grandkids?
So what we have done is we have created groups. So we have 25 right now, but with 2 on the way, but we've put them in groups. So, and this has been fun for us. And over the years,
it's become part of their identity.
Yeah, it's become their culture, and they get super excited about it. So we have the big 5. So we have our first 5 that were born really quick. And we have 2 boys and 3 girls that are in this group. And they're like our old ones. So it's 12 through 10 years old. And And all the little cousins look up to these guys, and all 5 of them are so good with the little kids, and they are just so welcoming. And I heard one of the little cousins this week said, "I can't wait till I'm a big 5," which they will never be. But that's how they esteem these oldest cousins.
Right.
And then we have this next group of cute little four little girls who we've called the princesses their whole life, but they just told me this week, we don't want to be the princesses anymore. We want to be the queens.
Okay. So they've promoted themselves. I like that.
Yeah, they've outgrown princess. And so we have the princess group. And then we had this year where we had 5 little boys all born in the same year. And they're just the cutest group of boys. They're all like 5 and 6.
But they could take a forest down really quick. Too.
And their name is the Sons of Thunder. And that fits them perfectly. And boy, they all know that they are part of that group.
Yeah, to be the Son of Thunder is kind of an honor.
And then we have a cutie little group called the Firecrackers, because we have 4 little girls in this group. And boy, they are firecrackers. Every one of them is going to take on the world. And they're so cute. One day this week, I was talking to one of them and I said, "Hey, is so-and-so your best friend?" And she said, "Of course, because she's a firecracker with me." And anyway, and then we had another little run on boys. We've got 5 little boys, and they're called the Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
They're cutie little boys. These are just 1 and 2-year-olds. And then we have a run on girls right now, and now we have a little ladybug group. And so it was really fun for the Olympics because they were all in their groups. They all had a color. They would all huddle together, and it makes it really easy too, just functioning at a family reunion group, because we can say, "Hey, Big 5, can you guys all go take the garbage out?" Or, "Hey, Band of Brothers, we all need you guys to come clean up the toys." And they all know who they are. And again, it's just another level of belonging that they now belong. They belong to the whole big cousin crew, but they also belong
to this group,
to their own little group of unique, buddies that are their age, that they really bond with. And so that's been a really fun thing for us.
Yeah.
And they all know their name. They know what group they are, and they're proud of
it. And they kind of rub it in, don't they?
They're excited.
Right. Janie, another thing I think we would say is that we want the gospel to be a big part of these gatherings, right? When we gather our family together. Like you always say, whether it's a Sunday dinner or if it's a cousin's camp or we're at the lake, we're going to talk about the gospel in some way, hopefully in a fun way that they can relate to. But how would you say you've been able to weave that key concept of the gospel into these gatherings?
For me, that's where you begin, right? Like for us, that's the most important thing. That's the goal, is we always are saying, what principle, what are we seeing in our children, our grandchildren that needs to be taught? What do they need? What do we need to focus on? And then we kind of start there and build around that.
So I think it's great. That's good.
So we've had a few, and I can just give a few examples of what we've done, but we had one in Montana where we hiked up and overlooked the temple, and then
the Billings Temple, yeah.
And then we had them all touch the temple. We talked about the importance of the temple. We did a little temple walk, and talked about experiences there and why temples are so important and how that makes us, why we are sealed together through the temple. And we had another time where we did a theme, kind of a sports theme. All of our kids love sport, our grandkids. Everybody plays a sport. And so we did shirts that have a Nike swoosh that said, "Just do it." And that was the thing. And
I liked it.
But we wanted to do is just do it, set goals, be strong. We talked about being mentally strong, emotionally strong, physically strong. We've got some grandkids with anxiety, so we kind of talked about through that is how, we can work through that and how Heavenly Father can help us. And so we did a lot.
And by the way, as you say, we did a lot. I think it's important for people to know that we actually had stations, right? We had little classes set up that were taught by our own children and their spouses, right? And
right. So we
cool
had their parents
involved,
and
right?
Aunts and uncles do. It was almost kind of a little EFG, especially for grands, and so they would move from station to station in their little groups. And so we had a son-in-law that worked them out, that, taught them basic exercises. We had a son-in-law who taught them basic fire making skills. They all got to learn how to build a fire.
Yeah.
We had one of the aunts teach them manners, like table manners and being polite. We had another aunt teach them basic culinary skills, like how to cut an apple and an onion. And they all still talk about that. They all still like help mom make dinner at night, and they're like, oh, Aunt Kenzie taught me how to do this. Anyway, practical skills helps build self-worth and self-esteem. And so that was an important part of that particular camp, that we wanted them to learn skills and walk away with skills so that they could be armed and they could just go do it.
Right. And once again, it's always going to be surrounded by fun as well. We don't want anyone to think that we're just cramming.
Oh, no, they loved it.
I mean, they're doing water slides and...
Oh, yeah, and they were getting treats and handouts and all that. It was super fun. We did another one that was kind of a beach-centered, water-centered, and we talked about the stories from the scriptures that included water, Christ walking on the water, the sand, the
wise man built his
house upon the sand, why we don't do. Anyway, you can take anything.
Right.
You can and apply gospel principles to it. And I guess because I did girls camp again for so many years, that it's easy to take the application. This year too, this would have been a really easy year, and we kind of drifted a different direction. This year, the youth theme was I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. And we kind of started there. We kind of got sidetracked on a different theme that we saw that was in need. But that would have been a fun. Mm-hmm. And that's just easy, too, to do whatever the youth, program is.
Just to align with that, yeah.
So there's all kinds of things, and there's all kinds of fun ideas out there. But you can tie the gospel into anything that you do. One of Mark's favorite games is when there's kind of downtime. He's like, okay, everyone look around and pick something and tell me why that points to Christ. And the kids are really good at coming up with analogies. They're better than me. They think of things that I never even thought of. But they can look around and say, oh, the pine tree points to Christ. Oh, and it's always green. They're amazing. And
we were floating down a river in Montana, right? I think what you may be referring to. And they were kind of identifying all these types of things. It was really cool.
But again, it's just our job to keep pointing our children to Christ and keep teaching and keep loving and keep supporting. And even if our grandchildren or children aren't in the church right now, and maybe they're hostile or maybe they're fine with it, but we just do our best, right? To just keep exemplifying Christ-like traits. Just, be the loving, kind grandparent if we can't openly teach them the gospel.
Just teaching them general principles. I like how you've talked about life skills. I mean, that could benefit anyone.
Yeah, or just nice, good principles of being kind to people, thinking of other people first, the golden rule, all those kind of things we could teach. If our grandchildren aren't in the church and we don't feel like we can openly teach, but we could just do our best. But that we can still surround them with love, with openness, because again, we can reach grandchildren sometimes when their parents can't. The parents have to be the authority and the disciplinarian, where the grandparents can just be totally open and just love them unconditionally. And so I think that's a huge role that we as grandparents, and why we really have to take the lead in this. I also think with cousins, I know I loved my cousins. That was a highlight of my life anytime I got to be with my cousins. And I want that to be for our cousins too. I want them to grow up. What'd you say?
Yeah, you want them to have what you had, right? I mean, you want them to have that enjoyment with their cousins.
Right. And when you think of cousins, and I tell our little kids this all the time, as I said, guys, your friends are going to come and go. Like, in how you guys move all the time, your friends are going to change, and you might never even talk to that friend anymore. But your cousins are forever. You're always going to be associated with your cousins throughout your whole life and eternity. You guys share the same DNA. You have the same family stories. You have crazy grandparents.
Yeah.
You guys can make fun of your silly grandparents. You can, a lot of the families have the same traditions. We have food traditions in our families. We have things that get passed down, and that's common to all of them.
Right.
And just this past weekend, I found these little bracelets for the girls. We have 8 little girls, and they say best friends on them. And I gave one to each one of them, and we talked about how you little girls are going to be best friends your whole life. Even if you live all over the world, and even if you don't see each other regularly, when you get back together, there's just a common bond that you can just immediately pick up on. I mean, I have cousins I haven't seen for 10 or 20 years, but when I see them, it's like, oh my gosh, you can just pick right back up because you have that common bond.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to instill. And again, I know it's not ideal in every family.
Yeah, not all families are in a position to do something like this and pull it off.
But we just can do what we can do, right?
Exactly.
And even if it's only with one other family or one family at a time, whatever our family circumstances allow and our extended family circumstances allow, I just think we need to to be gatherers, to bring family together. Unify, yeah.
I love that. Well, Janie, what advice would you have for those who are new to this, right? They've never done it before. Or maybe they're just starting out, they're starting out, or like it's someone who's in their mid-30s, and they're like, grandkids are coming. In the next 10 years, we're going to have some grandkids. So let's be thinking this way. What would you say to those groups?
If I was just starting out, well, first of all, I'm gonna put right here, I am not an expert at this at all.
Well, I thought you
all
were.
I can do is talk about what we do.
Right.
But there are amazing people. I've got many friends of mine that are amazing at this, and they are so good with their families, and they do things their way, and they have all their traditions. And so for me, my first suggestion is just to pick people's brains, because that's what I do.
Find out who's doing great with this stuff.
Right. I've asked all my friends when I hear that they're doing this, my first thing is, okay, I got to pick your brain. Like, tell me what you do. And I've had so many fun suggestions and things that they have told me about. And so I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I am a gatherer of information. So I'll tell you that.
Well, you do a great job with that.
I feel like I have fun with our group. So my first recommendation is, if you're interested in doing this, just there's Pinterest ideas. There's tons of Pinterest ideas. There's tons of Instagram ideas. Ask around your friends, what do they do with their grandchildren or their cousins? Or, what do they do for family reunion fun? And so I would start there, and I just collect tons of ideas. My other thing would do is keep it simple to start out with. Like, you don't have to go all out and elaborate, and I way over plan. So for this last week, I probably had enough planned for probably 4 or 5 days, and we only had a day and a half.
Yeah.
And so, but I always want to be prepared in case there's downtime. But then I realize I also love downtime, because that's when they just have fun. They just are running around, shooting each other with water guns. And that's when they're really bonding and things like that. So you got to have free time. And not every moment needs to be planned, but a lot of it does, or you're going to have mass chaos.
Right.
My sister just gave me a cute little plaque that says chaos coordinator. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like at Cousins Camp. That's my grand title, but we love it. We call it organized chaos, and it's the best. If you only have a few number of grandchildren, start out small and just do, fun things that they like to do. If you have a ton of grandkids,
or even teenage
grandkids, just do something that they like. Take them.
I know we've taken the big 5 go-karting before. Just that's all we did on a Saturday afternoon, and that was cool.
And that is a fun thing too, is breaking them into smaller groups. If you have multiple, we have taken them in their groups. We took the princesses to get pedicures one day. We took the Sons of Thunder to play putt-putt golf, and they about knocked the place down.
The Sons of Thunder left their mark, let's just say.
So that's fun, too, to do smaller things with smaller groups. But just ask around and but again, just do something. Even if it's just to go swimming one day with all the cousins. I mean, just start simple, but just do something.
And
be intentional about it.
The idea is that you're organizing it, though. You're intentional about it, and this could be as simple as taking these grandkids to the temple as they're teenagers now, and they're coming over for pizza afterwards. I mean, I know so many couples our age that do something as simple as that, right?
Right. And again, it doesn't have to be one huge grandiose thing in the summer. It could be throughout the year. Like you said, taking their smaller groups, taking them to the temple to do baptisms, and then out to breakfast, or whatever it is, or making a big thing out of normal holidays or family events. But just, again, bonding the cousins, bonding the aunts and uncles, bonding the cousins to the aunts and uncles, the grandparents. It's just all so important and so needed that we have that fundamental unit where we can cheer each other on, that we can bless each other, that they can have that identity that I belong to this family, I belong to this group, all these people have my back and will cheer for me. And I just think that's just, we all need that in this world.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be on a big team if we're gonna make it. So Janie, what I would say as we kind of wind down is, once again, growing up in a family where we had cousins and we did see each other on occasion, maybe once a year or so, but that just kind of faded with time, right? The older we became and the busier people became, we just didn't, kind of lost that contact. And so for me, serving the mission, coming to BYU, and then connecting with one of my favorite mission companions, and then hanging out with him and recognizing, wow, this is incredible. He and his cousins were best friends. I mean, this was their intramural sports team in football and in softball. This is who he took classes with. They were in the same ward. They were roommates together. I mean, and I know some would say maybe this is a little bit too much, but I remember walking away thinking, now that is a close family. Those parents did something so that these cousins were all just best friends. And there was such a great feeling that I had just kind of watching that happen and thinking, this would be really cool to kind of create this one day. And so I know that there's such great purpose and such a great mission, if you want to say it that way, for parents to engage in helping these cousins just stick together.
And I know we try to do that. We say things like that all the time as, oh, when you guys are all at BYU together, you can room together. Or when you go to EFY together, or sorry, the FSY now.
Right.
When you go to FSY, you guys can room together.
Or a sports camp.
And they get so excited. Yeah. And one last thought I had too after watching the kids this week is I love how they all interact, boys and girls. I think in the world, especially as they start becoming preteens, it becomes like weird, for the boys to be talking to the girls or the girls to be talking to the boys because, then it becomes, that's just starting that weird thing. But in cousins camp, your cousins are non-threatening. And so I loved watching our 12-year-old grandson and our 11-year-old granddaughter laughing and playing sports and interacting, but because there's no weirdness there.
Yeah.
And they're learning social skills that they wouldn't learn probably at school or wherever. But now this is a non-threatening situation, so they can learn how to interact with each other. And I just thought that was a bonus blessing.
Yeah.
That they're family, but they're really cool and you love them and you're having fun.
And those two are actually in a little competition, I think.
Yeah, they're both really competitive sports-wise. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun to watch who's the best, right? So Janie, if we transitioned right into the end here and said, okay, let's do something here. What's an invitation that we could extend to those who are listening today when it comes to cousins camp / reunions? We're kind of being general here on purpose.
I would just say that, if you're not doing anything with even your children, even maybe you don't even have grandchildren yet, but if you're not doing anything with your extended family, do that. Do something.
Do anything.
If you wanted to look forward one day to when you do have grandkids, just start picking people's brains, start writing ideas down, start saving ideas on Pinterest or on Instagram or wherever you see fun group family ideas. I have probably 500 games that I have pinned or saved in the past few years, that are just easy to pull out. Things like that, just so that you are prepared. And just, also just you have to have a desire to do it. You have to have a desire to want to gather and to bring your family together and understand that there's a bigger purpose here. And I think it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice for people to travel to be there. It's a sacrifice for whoever's planning it to put it on. But we all, because it's important to us as a family, we need to make that a priority.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Janie, I'm grateful that you've been willing to be interviewed today. For those listening, she does go all out. It's like an FSY, really. The standard that you've set and the bar that you've raised, I think you've had a lot of great experiences in your church life that have been able to translate over into this life with our grandchildren, and I'm so grateful for that. So
But again, no, you don't have to do that to make it wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, you can just go to the beach. You can go camping. You can do whatever. It doesn't have to be the way I do it.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, we're inviting you to do something with it. If this appeals to you or to someone else, feel free to share this episode. And we're so grateful that you've been with us today and look forward to being with you next time. Everyone have a wonderful week.